You're listening to Shoes in Russia. I'm Smith, and I'm currently in Italy.
And
Sicil.
And I'm Russia.
And I'm Russian.
I'm Lily. I'm a Russian expert. Because apparently if you've taken more than like one class of Russian, or not at all,
Or not at all.
you just say you're a Russian expert, then you are.
Did you read some stuff about Russia? Did you read the Russian wiki yet? Because I think that's all it
Do
takes.
you follow a lot of Russians on Twitter? Russian expert. Can you read Cyrillic? Yes. And I am also in Italy, sitting across the table from my lovely co-host. We're together still, but we're traveling. We're in what we learned is pronounced Sicil. I'm really sorry if there are any real Italians.
Sure,
listening.
if that's right.
Okay, but we're in Sicily. Smith, what are we talking about on this episode?
We're talking about Rob Reiner's new wiki page.
Rob Reiner's latest film.
Rob Reiner's latest film starring Morgan Freeman.
It's the trailer for the film.
Yeah.
The film's not out yet. And it's not a film, it's a movie.
It's a movie. Many of you have probably seen this advertisement, but what we're talking about today in general is the Committee to Investigate Russia. Which,
Bum, bum, bum.
which is a joint project by a group of people, one of whom is Rob Reiner, who, as you may know, is the illustrious director of many a good film.
He really is, though.
He really is. When Harry Met Sally, loved that movie.
Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap, good movie. Didn't make it through all the way because I think I felt irritated. Stand By Me.
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride.
That's a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. So he's a good director. We're not taking that away
We
from him.
like what he does with Hollywood and the narrative. So what he did was he made basically this website called investigaterussia.org. Unfortunately, somebody already bought .com. If you own that, please contact us because we want to put Shoes in Russia on it.
We'll make you a good deal up to $10.
We really will. $10 a year. Think about it, okay?
Think about it, man.
Think about this. Just to introduce a little bit of like what they are apparently a nonpartisan organization. That's what they're calling themselves. One of the goals that they list is to help Americans recognize and understand the gravity of Russia's continuing attacks on our democracy. And that's the kind of rhetoric on their site. That's a good, like, sort of representative of it. But basically what they did was they released a site. They also released a video, and that's what a lot of people saw. And the video was basically a trailer, an ad for the organization. And it's just Morgan Freeman speaking. It's just his face.
So let's listen.
Let's watch the video with our ears.
All right.
We have been attacked. We are at war. Imagine this movie script. A former KGB spy, angry at the collapse of his motherland, plots a course for revenge. Taking advantage of the chaos, he works his way up through the ranks of a post-Soviet Russia and becomes president. He establishes an authoritarian regime, then he sets his sights on his sworn enemy, the United States. And like the true KGB spy he is, he secretly uses cyber warfare to attack democracies around the world. Using social media to spread propaganda and false information, he convinces people in democratic societies to distrust their media, their political processes, even their neighbors. And he wins. Vladimir Putin is that spy, and this is no movie script. We need our president to speak directly to us and tell us the truth. We need him to sit behind the desk in the Oval Office and say, my fellow Americans, during this past election, we came under attack by the Russian government. I've called on Congress and our intelligence community to use every resource available to conduct a thorough investigation to determine exactly how this happened. The free world is counting on us for leadership. For 241 years, our democracy has been a shining example to the world of what we can all aspire to. And we owe it to the brave people who have fought and died to protect this great nation and save democracy. And we owe it to our future generations to continue the fight.
Join the committee to investigate Russia. Join the fight.
Fucking 1945, I swear to God. Join the committee. Join the Citizen Corps. You can fight from Pennsylvania. You don't have to go to war. Fight on the home front. We're going to get into depth analyzing that because that's the main thing that's floating around Twitter. I don't think that many people are actually reading the content of the website.
Let me tell you, folks, you're missing out.
It's riveting.
It's riveting. I never knew so much about Russia.
Okay, so in the video, sort of the point, the demand, right? If we're seeing this as some kind of grassroots activism, is that this committee want Trump or whatever, the U.S. government officially, to say, dear American people, we are going to conduct a thorough investigation. And I'm confused. That's their demand, and that is what we're already doing.
I don't think that's their demand.
Well, that's the demand in the video.
That's the demand in the video, yeah.
I agree that's not what he says in other interviews.
Yeah, I kind of said this before, but it's really not clear to me, what they're trying to do. Are they trying to just make a wiki? Because, okay, they did that, I guess. I think the main thing is they're why doesn't anybody care about this? And they're getting all worked up in themselves, and they're oh, we're gonna make people care about it with our movies that draw on your heartstrings.
Who are the people who don't care? The media cares.
The media cares. Well, this is what Rob Reiner and David Frum said on CNN, which was
they're
the media cares. You guys are doing a great job. They say that to the CNN anchors. You guys are doing great, but the average person doesn't care.
Right. So I think you're right. They want some kind of emotional stirring to happen people get from a movie.
Yeah.
So what happened was the committee releases this trailer with Morgan Freeman's voice and face. Then Rob Reiner and David Frum, who's one of the advisory board.
He's one of the advisory board members, but he's not on the website, which is confusing. But he is the senior editor of The Atlantic. He was a speechwriter for Bush, and they're going around together. So I think that they just forgot to put him on the website.
Very possible. Those two, that little duo, since the release of this video, they've been going around to all the big American media companies like CNN, Fox, basically to promote their committee. So that kind of leads into so this is a nonprofit and who's funding it. And basically it's Rob Reiner is funding it. And the way they formulate their goals, well, in that video, as I said, is a little bit different from how Rob Reiner explains what he's doing in interviews, because people press him and then he has to explain his whole point. And we can play a clip.
There doesn't
of that
really
in a
seem to be that much substance there.
Yeah,
he's
no.
just hacking. They're hacking things, and they're not just hacking one computer. They're hacking our democracy.
Right, and no, but he has it occurred to me at one point that this committee to investigate Russia, given that they're basing their whole premise on being a wiki, a gathering place for all public information, publicly available information, they're a shitty version of Navalny's anti-corruption foundation in a way, just that no one in them is running for public office. But it just is a funny parallel kind of, because it just it seems like they're doing similar things, but Navalny's is much more convincing and
it's
well
much more
produced.
Convincing and well produced, and he also produces things, whereas they really are just assembling links in a way that's not easy to navigate.
They haven't produced anything other than the site and this trailer, but Navalny produces actual expose videos.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll come up with other things. I mean, he's a director, right? He could get a drone. He could drone over
the White House.
He's Trump, beep beep. But yeah, so if Reiner articulated any goal over the course of his big media interviews, it was to educate the American public so that people understand the gravity. Because he made a distinction between the legal repercussions of the Russian government hacking the American election and the moral, emotional implications of this interference. Because he said, look, Mueller, we're gonna say between Mew and Meh. The official investigations that's currently happening in the U.S. government to investigate Russian interference, that investigation, it is trying to find crimes that took place that could be prosecutable. And Reiner makes this distinction. He's look, they're covering the legal illegal stuff. They're gonna find out what's illegal. We know that they're doing that, and that's cool. They being the real
Very
investigatory
cool.
team. But
good job, guys.
He's but what we need to do is
we're the propaganda branch of the
he's
investigation.
He's they're looking at the legal stuff, and we're looking at what goes beyond that, because he's some things happen that maybe aren't illegal, but they're un-American. or they're immoral. He used that word, un-American.
Two things with the title of this committee. Yeah, bullshit. Don't call something a committee. The second thing is investigate Russia. You're not investigating Russia. Is Rob Reiner like going over to Moscow and knocking on the door of the Kremlin?
Well, he's not
Excuse me, Mr.
investigating
Putin?
because he's not actually analyzing any data. He has a preconceived notion that he's propagating
But
and putting a
investigating-
bunch of wiki links together.
But investigating is also like going and finding new information, not just analyzing given information. Like they're not investigating anything.
That's true.
This goes along with the like, and I'm an expert thing because I read things. It's like, no, you have to actually like go talk to people and like
No.
solve mysteries to be an investigator.
No, you don't.
Don't you know about Sherlock Holmes?
When he wanted to say that, like, there's already this investigation going on looking for prosecutable crimes, and that they want Americans to understand, just to understand what has been done to them, not legally or illegally, but like how their Americanness has been questioned, their pride. It comes to a really emotional level that it's hard to describe.
I think it goes back to this American exceptionalism thing. It's like anytime any country does anything that could be potentially perceived as impinging on this like amorphous freedom that defines America, like patriotic people get very insulted.
Yeah, the words he used to describe this insult, like there's the illegal stuff, and the words he uses are un-American, which we've heard from a lot of like conservative people before.
The Committee on Un-American Activities.
Oh, and the Cold War, basically. Yeah. And then improper, which is of course, the guy is like winging it. He's on live TV, so he's saying words, but he said improper.
He's like, putting sentences
but
together.
Said improper, which is like, what the Russian government did was improper. Like, think about that. Like, what is the implication there? It's like so moralistic that it just feels like so outdated.
Well, yeah, but the improper thing, I think, pulls on the language of like these never Trumper people, which are definitely like part of this advisory board that refer to Trump's behavior as like improper and not dignified. And so this like fake veneer of like civility is driving a lot of the emotions of these types of people, because they don't actually care about like the implications of these people's policies. They just care about their behavior.
But I feel like Reiner's more saying improper, like maybe he used that word in sort of an echoey way, but I feel like he more meant to say like, it's not something a good guy does. You know, like, you gotta be a good, hard, honest, hardworking, God-honest American. Yeah. And you gotta have a farm, okay, Putin? Like, that's what it feels like. It's like he wants Americans to understand that, like, the whole point of our country is upholding certain ideals.
Well, and the fact that we voted for Trump indicates that those ideals are being broken down, and they couldn't possibly be broken down by, like, self-generated systems. They must be broken down by Putin.
Yes. Yeah. Only Putin could do that.
And boy, is that indecent.
Okay. So let's play the clip of Reiner explaining himself on one of those interviews. This is on Fox. Sorry.
Shout out to Tucker Carlson.
Tucker, don't listen to our show.
Fuck off, Tucker.
We don't want your goddamn listenership and your weird baby boy face.
Yeah, you're like swoop hair. All right.